Williams faces execution on Tuesday for a 1998 murder in St. Louis County. Williams has maintained his innocence. Now, several appeals to Missouri and federal courts are filed to issue a stay, including claims of new evidence of racial bias.
We found out that jurors were stricken from the jury panel.
Missouri NAACP president backs his attorney's arguments. Trial prosecutors unconstitutionally removed Black prospective jurors because of their race. St. Louis University law professor Anders Walker weighs in.
The only hope here is a due process ruling from the federal court saying whether or not Mr. Williams is guilty, there was racial bias, and that'll derail the execution.
Missouri Governor Mike Parson could also grant clemency at least 24 hours prior.
Governor Parson would probably grant clemency if the actual killer came forward and said, I did it. Beyond that, I think he is ready to execute Mr. Williams.
We have faith that Governor Parson will do the right thing.
Major decisions are still on the table, days before time.
This is Marcellus Williams, a man who's set to be executed in 4 days. Now, I have a problem. One of my followers just sent me this information, so I did hours of research, and I witnessed something that I've never seen before. The prosecutors, the people who put people in jail, came out and said, hey, he might not have done it. Can we just give him life in prison instead? They were denied. The family of the victim he supposedly came out and said, hey, don't do it. And they were ignored. But why? Well, the answer is no one knows. But the story gets a little crazier than that. See, this isn't the first time he was supposed to be executed. Back in 2015, in the last minute, the governor of Missouri, this was in Missouri, by the way, comes out and says, stop. They found new evidence. He really might not have done it. So the governor makes a special council of judges to do an investigation. They said, okay, well, he might not have done it. We're making you a report, Governor. The governor says, great. But the governor resigns. A new governor comes in and he says, I don't want to see the report. You guys are all done. And he's going to be executed. So they went to the Supreme Court of Missouri. And the Supreme Court of Missouri said, let's just go through with it anyway. So the prosecutors came out. And they did their own investigation, and they said, wow, he really might not have done it. The trial was a mess, and I'm going to be frank here, racist. 11 white jurors and 1 black juror were selected in Missouri. A black jury was rejected because his hair was kind of messy and unkempt. He didn't look trustworthy. And most importantly, the DNA on the weapon did not match his. So the prosecutors go over to his team. They said, let's talk it out. What if we just give him a plea deal, life in prison, which would give everyone time to come together and figure everything out. But in what is being called a bizarre twist, a judge rejects it. He just says, no, we're going to go through with it anyway. Now, all people are asking for is time. They're not asking he walks out. They're just asking for time. And it would be one thing if his team was asking for this to be stopped, but if prosecutors, if representatives, if people, if the victims' families are asking for a little more time, then I think it warrants that. Now, 4 days is not a long time, so where do we go from here? Well, as many people as possible needs to be aware of this, because bringing attention on an issue does a lot more than people may think. Governors, prosecutors, the Supreme Court, they all work for you. So again, in 4 days, the fate of a man is decided. So really, I just thought you should know, especially the people of Missouri, what some of your employees have decided to do to Marcellus Williams.
I am from Missouri. I was born in Missouri. I'm from St. Louis. I know how that government is because unfortunately my uncle was killed by the police. I know exactly how they get down over there. Now, from what I know is the fact that why these governments are doing this and making decisions like that when it doesn't even make sense. They're just asking for more time. It causes a uproar and feeling of despair that we are under their control. They get to decide the fate of things, and it's making people feel helpless. The new governor that was put in is not human, and most of them in that circuit is not human as well. That is the reason why they operate the way they operate. It's not about killing this innocent man. It's morely the effect that it will cause on the collective to make them feel the way they're feeling right now and how everybody is feeling as this clock counts down. Marcellus Williams is scheduled for execution in Missouri on September 24th, even though there is no reliable evidence proving that he committed the crime for which he was sentenced to death for. The state destroyed or corrupted the evidence that could conclusively prove his innocence, and the available DNA and other forensic crime scene evidence does not match him. There is a far too much uncertainty in this case to allow him to be executed, particularly when the victim's family believes believes life without parole is the appropriate sentence. Now, this is the victim's family. This is not his family saying that. He's been in there for nearly 24 years. 24 years. He was indicted in 1998 and he was convicted in 2001. Here's what we can do to help.
Marcellus Williams, and he is scheduled to be executed by the state of Missouri on September 24th for a crime he did not commit. Despite there being DNA evidence proving that he is innocent, the Missouri Supreme Court has scheduled him to be executed anyways. He has been on death row for 24 years for this crime that once again he did not commit, and he's going to be executed in 8 days. This is what we need y'all to do. First, text Marcellus to this number to join his advocacy team. Then they will ask for your first name. After you give it, they will give you the link to the petition. Please sign it and share it. You can also find the petition in the link tree in my bio. Share it with your family.
Okay, I did it.
You see how they always try to find some type of way to keep us reliving the past, reliving situations, reliving energy, reliving trauma. He's been sitting 24 years in prison. Now it's time to execute him. Do you see when they do certain things and why they do it at certain times? I bring this case to you to not make you feel despair and feel powerless up against this world, but I really wanted to share this because if there's something that we can do about it, there's something that we can do about it. The governor was born in 1955. He served more than 22 years in law enforcement. There are a lot of people on TikTok who are talking about this case and a lot of people who have submitted to the petition. The whole point of this situation happening is to make us feel like us coming together doesn't actually do anything, but it actually does a lot. That is why they're waiting up until the day before or the day of to make a decision, to still circulate that energy of despair and urgency. I also wanted to mention that St. Louis County Police had no leads for 10 months following the murder, and she was a 40-year-old white woman, and she was a journalist, until Dr. Daniel Pickus offered a $10,000 reward for evidence leading to the conviction of his wife's murder. That's when Henry Cole called the police claiming Williams confessed to the killing while the two were in jail together. A few months later, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch reported Laura Azzaro was arrested for ex-work. She told the officer she had information about Gail Pickus's murder, but when the detective tried to question her, she refused and admitted that she was just trying to get out of the arrest. Upon learning of the reward, though, Azzaro then implicated Williams. Anybody who's offering $10,000, somebody's going to come up and say something to get that money. Williams' attorney contend that two witnesses' stories changed throughout the investigation, often contradicting their earlier statement and the facts of the crime. Both died several years ago, and their relatives have provided statements under oath reporting that the two, both with extensive prior convictions and a history of drug use, were known for providing false police information to benefit themselves.
The same irregular statements that was put in Rashad Jamal's case when I covered it 8 months ago. And again, there was no evidence in his case as well. The psychological suppression that they have put on him and also the people who are going through cases just like his causes a psychological suppression in unity. Don't let them continue to recycle the hopeless feeling of despair, especially for our Afro-melanated ones. Their time is up, and that is why they want to gather as much energy as they can to hold on to the policies and the matrix that they have built. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you on another video. I love y'all.